All right, Chaz and Sula back at it again. It's a new Thursday, season 2, episode 19 of Last Second Covers. We're officially in the booth on air, and I still can't go over the fact that this is really happening. We have real sports to talk about. Actually, a lot to talk about when it comes to the big three in America. You got MLB, NBA, and NFL. So we're going to cover all of it in this week's episode. As a rundown, we'll go with our last second covers of the week in sports betting, our updates in the MLB now that we're about 10 games in, our big rumors in all of sports with our rumor mill, our comeback story with the NBA bubble, everything that has to do with that now that, just like the MLB, basketball is officially back. And we will wrap it all up with our bottom of the barrel for the week. This one has to, just like everything else, tie into the big three in American sports. Has to do a little bit with why some of them can't take off sometimes. Wink, wink to that. Stay tuned to the end of the episode to hear our bottom of the barrel. But before anything else, Sula, we have sports back. How are you feeling?
I'm ecstatic. I have been watching basketball all week, and I love it.
Have you been winning at all?
Have I been what?
Winning?
Here and there. I mean, as we know, as I've said in the past, I'm a big parlay guy. And where do I lose? In baseball, of course. But why? Because I put money on the Red Sox, because I'm an asshole. But, basketball, the bets that I've been putting in have been going very well.
That's always good to hear. I've seen your hit or miss has been doing really well, so kudos to you on that.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom.
More hits.
Kind of ties into what we got going on for very first of this episode. Last second covers of the week. Here we recap our biggest sports betting covers, things that just ended up coming in at the very last second to either turn the game one way or another. And if you've been betting on PointsBet, it actually this is sometimes the killer or the savior. Because if you bet on a sports book and all of a sudden your bet either wins or loses at the very last second, it is amazing or horrible at the same time. So if you want a sports book to go and do that with, Points betting is our go-to. So you go to straightupsports.com/pointsbet and you get 2 risk-free bets worth up to $1,500 if you go ahead with PointsBet. So with our last second covers of the week, if you ended up betting for the Kings, sorry to say, this one for mine didn't do you many favors. Sacramento, just a couple days ago, hosting Dallas in the bubble, quote-unquote hosting. They were up by 7 going into the fourth quarter, and I'm sure everyone here is rooting at least marginally for the Kings, right? Because they're like the 10 seed in the West. They're not really making it right now into the playoffs, but they need wins, right? They were winless going into it. They need a win to at least get some potential of making the playoffs here in the NBA. Up by 7 against the Mavs in a game that they should not be winning. The spread in this game was 6 points in favor of Dallas. And then Dallas, led by Luka, scores 20 in the fourth. Not that many points. That's really actually pretty bad. But fortunately for Dallas, Sacramento only scored 13, and that is a 7-point cover in the fourth quarter to send us to overtime, game tied. And what happens? The Wizard, he does his thing. Magic Luka Doncic, man, finishes with a insane triple-double, 34 points, 20 assists, and 12 rebounds. And the Mavericks, 20 rebounds?
Yeah.
That's even crazier.
Mm-hmm.
Even crazier, man. And so they end up taking the game from Sacramento, down 7 in the fourth quarter, come back. They don't cover the 6-point spread, but they steal the win from the Kings at the last moment. Scripts of life. And the Kings still, at least until by the time we record this podcast, actually picked up a win, but they have been winless for 3 straight games, and that really put the dagger in their playoff hopes.
That's my MVP, Luka Doncic, right there. I love that boy. He's amazing.
Over the Giannis, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
I'd say so. I mean, Giannis has an amazing team around him. But to get back to this game real quick, the Kings, from what I understand, I did not get to watch the game live, but from what I understand, they came out hot in the first quarter. They were hitting a bunch of threes and then just went absolutely cold, could not buy a 3 to save their lives. And that was the absolute dagger because against Dallas, who is a prolific three-point shooting team, just start hitting them. And you know they're going to when you have Luka and Porzingis out there. they're going to they go on these runs that you just can't recover from.
Yeah, well, it doesn't help too when Buddy Hield has been at least the killer in fantasy, man. He stinks. He's been really bad. And he's supposed to be, he was a 3-point champion this year.
Yeah, I think he hit 3 threes in the first quarter and then maybe won the rest of the game. And he just kept shooting them. He just kept shooting. It was like watching Dion Waiters out there. He just walks up and then just tosses it.
Well, at least Dion Waiters has the excuse of being on edibles.
Yeah,
I don't think Buddy was high on this game.
No, but I feel like showing up to an NBA game on edibles, not a great move either. Might lose a job or two.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, listen, I understand trying to shoot yourself out of a cold streak, right? You gotta get hot. But he couldn't. The Kings couldn't. And if you put 13 points up in a quarter, you're going to lose games. It's as simple as that.
You're going to have a bad time for sure.
Exactly. So that's my big last second cover. The Kings looking for a victory, end up losing this game. They still cover that 6-point underdog spread, but they lose the money line in what was a really important game for them for the playoff hopes. So that's my last second cover. Sula, though, what do you have? What really hurt or helped in betting sense?
So I went with a game that was yesterday, Toronto Raptors against the Orlando Magic. And the Raptors were favored by 8 points in this game. And it looked all Raptors from the get-go. And really, it was all Raptors the entire game. Like, they were up 15 after the first quarter, 20 at halftime. And then all of a sudden, the Magic started having a pretty good second half. After the third quarter, they were within 10. And they got even within 6 towards the end of the game, which was making people who bet the Raptors sweat a little bit. But late down the stretch, I believe Serge Ibaka got a late bucket with about under a minute left to put them from 8 and pushing to a 10-point win. And, I mean, every time I see this name, every time I see Fred VanVleet, and he has like 20 points, 10 assists, I have to scratch my head. Like, every time I look at this guy, I say, there's no way he's this good at basketball. But he is. He proves me wrong every time he goes out there. But him and his Raptors went out there, almost made better sweat for sure. If you bet the Raptors, like I believe I did. I think I had them.
You don't even know?
No, but I didn't bet on them, but I think I had him on hit or miss for one of the better bets. And, yep, he saved a lot of bettors out there. Yeah. Made a lot of bettors angry, too. A lot of people thought they were getting their money back if you bet on the Magic, and then nope.
Listen, your first mistake is betting on the Magic, right? You can't be mad if your Magic spread bet doesn't cover because the Magic stink.
Yeah, especially when Aaron Gordon only scores 9 points.
Yeah, we just see today, or no, it was yesterday in the Magic Raptors game. He called Kyle Lowry, your favorite player, Kyle Lowry, a bitch. And Kyle Lowry goes,
not wrong.
865 is my room number. That's a pretty good clapback, man. That's a good response.
Yeah,
Kyle Lowry ain't no bitch.
Depends what the next response would have been. You can turn that around on him pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Gordon's he's a scary guy. He
is a scary guy, yeah.
He could play tight end, man. He could be the next Gronk.
He would jump over people. It wouldn't even be fair.
Aaron Gordon, baby. But yeah, I watched that game too. Fred VanVleet, for me, at least in fantasy terms, was really helpful because our fantasy favorites for NBA actually cashed pretty well last night because of VanVleet. So kudos to him, but I could definitely see too sweating it out. You wouldn't think that a Raptors Magic game is that close. I would think the Raptors blow them out pretty heavily, but like you said, they kept it close. So
it's unusual little restart season we got here. I mean, the Suns are winning games, like a lot of games. I think they're 3-1 in the bubble. Like there's and like even was just watching TJ Warren. No one expected this out of him.
No, actually, that goes pretty well into like today's game as we're recording. As the podcast gets released, it's yesterday's game technically, but just an update a little bit on where we are at the NBA. We'll go into that as our first topic. Like you said, TJ Warren, man, 53 points, 33 points, 32. I mean, he's nuts.
He's crazy.
Taken over. Captain Phillips style, man. I am the captain now. Pacers are his team. He's been going nuts.
Yeah. Today, not so hot, only 16 points, but can't be great all the time. And the Suns, they're 4-0 now.
They won again. They're
4-0 in the bubble.
Devin Booker, man, this is why too. I completely wrote the Suns out of getting any sort of hopes, right? Because they were like the 11 seed. They weren't even close. this is what happens, man. You're 4-0. The Grizz start to drop some games. The Pelicans start to drop some games. Why not?
Yeah.
Why can't Phoenix sneak in there?
Yeah. I mean, don't sleep on Deontay Ayton either. He's a bad guy down low. Like, if that team plays, I don't know. I don't think they'll get that far because they'll have to play, I think, one of the LA teams if they even make it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they'd be a problem if they got to face the Rockets. Like, no one on that team stopping DeAndre Ayton.
No, dude, their tallest player, I had to do research on this for fantasy. Their tallest player right now is Jeff Green because Tyson Chandler is not there.
Yeah.
And Jeff
6'7"?
6'8".
Oh, okay.
That is not good for a center. That is very tiny, actually.
I must say though, they shoot their way into every game. Like, I was watching them play. Who did they play the other day? Oh, the Blazers. I was watching them play the Blazers, and the Blazers were just killing them down low, and Dame was being Dame. Every time they got down within like 12 points, they just shot right back to 4 points. I was like, these guys just don't quit.
Well, dude, the Rockets, they're a good shooting team. I know Russ is kind of like a dodo bird and just bricks shots. He'll take bad shots because we could at least agree on Russell Westbrook. Great stats, bad basketball IQ, to say the least. But James Harden, man, he could carry a team with just if you need a couple points, Harden will get them.
Dude, that travel that he does is crazy.
Yeah, somehow taking 3 steps to get behind the line is not a travel.
Somehow, I won't understand it till the day I die, but somehow.
Yeah, but back to the Suns, if they do get back into the playoffs, there's a 0% chance that they're a 7 or a greater seed. They're going to be the 8th seed,
right? Yeah,
and if that's the case, the number 1 seed's already locked in with the Lakers. So
yeah, they're going to get rolled over.
It would be ugly, dude.
Yeah.
If LeBron, like literally the only chance they have is if LeBron sits like he did today with his hurt groin. I think it's just kind of like load management at this point, though. Why would you play him?
Yeah, I mean, there's no point in playing him, especially you have the 1 seed locked up. Granted, I mean, what has he played? 4 games? Does he really do that much load management? But I guess just to be safe. And if he does have it seems like one of those things they make up to, like when they used to, the Patriots would put everyone on the injured list just to be like, oh yeah, Tom Brady's groin. Yeah, sure. Just that seems like what they're doing with LeBron right now. Yeah,
well, there's no point in putting him in and risking him actually getting an injury.
Right.
To see them get the 1 seed even more. Like, who cares? But fun fact about the Lakers is the first time they've secured the number 1 seed in the Western Conference since Kobe was leading that team in 2009, 2010. So 10 years ago was the last time, and now they're back in the history books.
And they won the title that year.
That they did. So I don't see why they can't win it again, dude. I really don't.
They're going to.
Do you think think anyone in the East poses any sort of threat?
Not really. I don't even think the Bucks. The Bucks probably the best shot in a head-to-head matchup, but I don't think anyone poses a threat.
No, I mean, listen, if you go with the Bucks Lakers, like I would say LeBron wins that matchup, right? But if it's a wash between him and Giannis, then it's AD versus I don't know, Brook Lopez down low. I mean,
yeah, and I mean you can throw LeBron, AD, you can say JaVale McGee. Dwight Howard, those are big bodies. You can all throw it. Giannis, like he's going to get tired, and I don't think he would last a 7-game series.
Yeah, and people seldom win their first finals appearance. So it's all about experience. And LeBron's been there 6 times, 7 times,
9 times.
It's been 9 times. Oh yeah, you're right.
He's 3-6 in the finals.
6. Yeah, you're exactly right. That is no bueno.
Still impressive.
Yeah, it's still impressive to get there. And I know people compare like the Jordan. Oh, Jordan was 6-0. Well, Jordan also didn't play the Warriors.
He didn't play with Boobie Gibson. Throw
it back to Boobie Gibson. That's a great reference. Yeah. But aside from the Lakers, if you go back to who they might be playing in the 8th seed, the Grizzlies came into the bubble as the 8th seed leaders, right? They were 3 games ahead of the Blazers.
Yep.
And Blazers look hot. They look like they have a shot at doing it. Shout out to Skinny Mello. But the Grizz, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it because I love Ja Morant, right? But Jaren Jackson Jr., who I think is extremely underrated, just tore his ACL and he's out for the rest of the year. So
yeah, that's huge. That's
big
huge.
Shot.
Plus, Ja Morant's a great player. I'm not in love with him.
Why?
Just because he I don't know. He like tries to be. He plays hero ball. He reminds me of Russ.
I don't know about that. He's a smarter player than Russell Westbrook.
Well, yeah, he's smarter, but like that's not hard to do. But like his game is just like go, go, go all the time. Like even when he's in a slump, he just keeps shooting the ball because it doesn't seem like he even trusts his teammates.
I don't know about that. Are you referencing from Marty Mush?
No, I granted, I thought this the exact same game from that. I was watching the highlights going, this is not good.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's tough. I think the Grizz have a really good, solid young core, right? You have Ja, you have Brandon Clark, Triple J when he's healthy. And it's good mentorship with Jonas Valanciunas there. But I think Ja, I agree. Sometimes he could do a little bit too much, but he's a fantastic ball distributor. Like he's a great scoring point guard, but could also dish out assists. So that's what you need in an ideal point guard. I think he fits that mold pretty well. And that's why the Grizz, like they were irrelevant before he got there. And now they're an 8 seed.
I wouldn't call 8 seeds relevant, but
in the West,
in
the West, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, the Grizz have no shot.
You don't think so without Triple J?
With Triple J, they didn't have a shot.
They were leading the West, the 8 seed.
Then they'd have to play the Lakers, and they get rolled over.
Oh yeah, to go. Oh yeah, no chance in the actual playoffs. I thought you were talking about to win the 8 seed.
Oh no, they definitely have a chance to win the 8 seed. They're probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they keep the 8 seed because there are 4 games left. Only the play-in game, right? If the 9 seed is within 4 games, there's a play-in.
I don't. Yeah, it's kind of confusing to me how the whole schedule. I think you're right. Yeah. But it's really going to be between them and Portland.
Yeah. So if they have to do a play-in game between the Grizz and Portland, Portland's taking that.
Yeah, I think Dame Dollar ends up. I mean, he's like one of the most clutch players in the NBA. Dame
CJ, Nurkic is crazy good. Like he's very underrated, I think.
Yeah. Well, people forgot about him with the broken leg, but now he's back.
Yeah. And if Hassan Whiteside could hit a free throw.
Yeah. Hassan has just gotten out of the picture.
Oh, and Melo. No disrespect to Melo.
Skinny Melo.
But
yeah, dude, Nurkic the other night grabbed 19 rebounds on the way to double-double. 19!
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Luka grabbed 20, but.
Oh, yeah. But 19, you can't scoff at 19. That's a fantastic number.
So we'll see. I agree with your sentiment, though. If it's a playing game between the Grizz and the Blazers, I would take the Blazers in that. If not for experience, just for the fact that Portland has Damian Lillard, and Damian Lillard doesn't win in those big games.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
The Grizz also have not won a game since the bubble started.
Have they not?
Nope. They've lost every game.
I would say that's bad.
Yeah, you know what? I'll go out on that limb with you. That's bad.
Not so good. But actually, I'm curious too. I haven't really been paying so much attention to the East. I think it's just like the Eastern Conference bias. I don't think the teams are really as good. I tuned in a little bit to the Nets game the other night against the Celtics, and they just got whooped.
Yeah.
Dude, Brooklyn got slaughtered by Boston.
It's a top-heavy conference for sure. But, I mean, it's not like you have – not that they're all bad. Like the Bucks have the best record in the league. Toronto looks amazing. The Heat look great. Celtics look great. Ben Simmons just went down, so he's out indefinitely.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what the injury is. It's like it was
knee, I think.
Yeah, well, they said it was like I don't know how to pronounce the word it was that Woj dropped, but it's pretty much like supposedly a dislocation.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Hopefully he'll be back. They haven't ruled him out for the season. Hopefully he'll be back.
Yeah, prayers up to Ben Simmons because he is exciting to watch when he's on.
It's my second favorite player in the league.
Who's your first?
Steph.
Oh, but
always Steph.
Yeah, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so though overall, what have you seen from the bubble? What do you like and what don't you like?
About team wise or just everything wise?
Anything. We got a bubble. It's kind of weird. So
yeah, it is kind of. Oh, I like that we have basketball. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty sick. I like how it seems like the commentators like are not taking it seriously. They're having a lot more fun with it. Like what's her name? Doris Burke.
I love Doris.
I love Doris Burke, but the other day she said something along the lines of like, "I'm always right. Just ask my ex-husband."
Yeah, that was hilarious. That was awesome.
Yeah, and even today, like Reggie Miller was. I heard some clip from him. I don't remember exactly what it was, but like it just sounds like they're all having fun. I also love the big desk for the TNT crew. Like it's so ridiculous. I get it, you're all 6 feet apart, but it's ridiculous. It's fun.
I like how you could hear everything that's going on in the court too.
Yeah,
like it's so much more. I love fan noise, right? I love the atmosphere, but here you could hear the in depths of like players like talking shit to each other. CJ McCollum was even on Part of My Take the other day talking about like how when they shoot free throws, you could hear everyone talking shit to one another.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think that's so much fun. I really wish they weren't bleeping out it on the broadcast, or at least like air it on another channel that you can like, I don't know, put on HBO Sports. They're not doing anything.
That's fair.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So I got to say, overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give the bubble like an 8.
I'd give it. What's wrong with it?
I miss the crowd atmosphere, and it's nothing that they can control, obviously, right? But
yeah,
it's a missing element.
Of course, but I think for the bubble, what it could have been, it is a 10. Like considering like all the things that could have went wrong. I mean, I don't love it, but I kind of like the people like, I don't know, they're zooming in, Skyping in to be on the background.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, even like the big graphics that they put up there, like if someone scores or something, I think that's pretty cool. I think considering the circumstances, they nailed it.
Yeah, well, sure. I'll give you that, considering the circumstances. But I miss how, when you go to the game, like if you watch a game for the Lakers, right, and you're at Staples Center, you have the big Lakers logo with all the stars around it.
I miss seeing Jack.
Yeah, sure.
I also miss seeing Jack.
But it's just a bare wood floor, basic outlines, and it kind of looks like they're playing a scrimmage. I know these are meaningful games, but it's tough to really get sold like this is a professional NBA game. At least for me, to be like, we're locked in. This is NBA basketball. So for me, it kind of looks like they're playing at like Melo's gym in the city, where he has all his friends play around. Like that's how I kind of feel about it. But
yeah, no, I don't disagree at all. You don't get the same like visceral reaction you get like when you hear just a loud noise after a sick dunk or something. Yeah,
it's not intense. It doesn't feel like really. But you know what? Like you said, all things considered, you really can't knock it. This is the one league that actually seems to have gotten it right.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll touch on to what another league that didn't quite get it right was. But before we do that, shall we segue into our rumors for the week? Because mine actually ties a little bit back into the NBA.
Let's get it.
All right. My rumor for this week revolves around a fellow St. Johnny. That would be J. Cole. So J. Cole, for whatever reason, obviously, if you don't know him, I don't know how you wouldn't, but he is a rapper, hip-hop artist. Pretty damn popular. I think you would know that name if you heard it, J. Cole. He was just invited by the Detroit Pistons to work out to potentially make the team, which is crazy to me. I think it's cool, but is this real? Like this reminds me of that movie with Mark Wahlberg. Was it Invincible, where he tries out for the Eagles? I mean, this can't be real, right? This has to be a phony workout.
Oh, it was definitely just so the Pistons can be like, look at us, we're hip, we're cool. Look at us, fellow kids.
I think that means
that's exactly what it was. I mean, like J. Cole. I mean, like the funniest thing that I always hear is every rapper wants to be a basketball player and every basketball player wants to be a rapper. So like, but from all accounts, from what I've heard, like everybody looks good in these videos because like when you watch Drake in a scrimmage, no one's within 10 feet of him.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
15 feet of J. Cole. You're not going to block J. Cole. You're out of the posse if you do that.
That is so true. But like, yeah, if he went up against Giannis in the NBA, like Giannis would stuff his ass.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's not like he's short. He's 6'2". So
that's guard height, I guess.
Yeah, he could be a guard. I mean, he's not going to be. I think it'd be funny if like the Pistons just like put him out there for a game, but He's got no shot.
Kind of like a Make-A-Wish kid, like our honorary member for today's game is J. Cole.
Yeah,
everyone clap for J. Cole.
Jermaine Cole, love that.
But someone had a good point. A fellow Hoosier, an Indiana Hoosier, who actually plays D1 basketball, Devontae Green, brother of Danny Green, who plays in the NBA. He tweeted, and he said there's no hate behind this tweet. But he said, I would have considered being a rapper if I knew it got you free NBA tryouts. And to me, that actually was like an interestingly good point, because you have legitimate D1 athletes who can't even crack getting a workout. And J. Cole gets one with a team, but he doesn't play any ball at all.
He also, like, I don't remember when it was. I think it was like maybe a week, maybe a few days before that. He apparently wrote like a 30-page paper about how badly he wanted to be an NBA basketball player. Like, that was his dream growing up, was to be a basketball player. So I think it was, coming off that. But, I think it was a harmless joke. Like, he's not coming in for a tryout. Like, calm down, Devontae.
Yeah. So one thing I didn't know, Matt, our producer, just told me this, was he made St. John's basketball team as a sophomore. So shout out to my brother Julian here, because he probably watched J. Cole play, which is pretty cool. Actually, he told me he used to play with him on the blacktop, that seems like a cool experience. Yeah, right? But J. Cole went with music, and now he's 35 years old. He's not young.
Nope, not young. But he did go 4 times platinum with no features. People forget that.
People don't sleep on J. Cole. I hear this guy J. Cole might be pretty good.
I hear he might be.
He might be in music. But yeah, if you had to give him a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it that J. Cole makes a team, or the Pistons just themselves?
0. I know you said 1 to 10, but 0.
Yeah, he breaks that scale, right?
Yeah, no, there's no shot.
Yeah, so interesting development. Like you said, it would be cool, but I don't think it's going to happen. But that's my rumor for this week. Sula, what have you heard going around the grapevine?
So what I'm here, I'm going to go over to football, is I believe the New York Giants are looking to add to their secondary, and they are looking to trade with the New England Patriots for J.C. Jackson, who is the number 2 to Stephon Gilmore, who's actually very good. Not very good. I don't want to toot his horn here, but he's a good corner. Like, with him, the Patriots were on a lot of lists ranked as the number 1 backfield in the league. But if you lose him, it's going to drop. But they're looking to make a trade for a good secondary player, and they're looking at J.C. Jackson. He's very fast. I'll give him that. He plays man very well. Do I think it's the best move for the Giants? No, but he's a good player. He's a solid player.
I mean, they need help after what was it? Baker ended up he's I guess not arrested yet, but after he robbed his family at the barbecue.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's their former first-round pick, man. He's toast. He's on the commissioner's exempt list, so they need someone. I don't think they have great corners right now. Janoris Jenkins was cut last year for using the R word, as they put it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, he called someone a retard in the locker room, and it got out. And I guess the Giants told him, don't do it again. And he was like, I'll say whatever the hell I want. And they were like, no, you can't. Not if you're working for our team. He goes, pretty much like flips on the bird, and they're like, all right, you're out. You're cut.
That's honestly probably one of the weirdest ways I've heard someone get cut from a team.
Yeah.
But sure. Okay. Yeah.
It's not like he was playing well.
Hey, he's another fast guy.
Yeah, you can be fast all you want. Tremaine Johnson was fast. He was one of the worst cornerbacks I've ever seen put on a Jets uniform, and that's saying something.
Yeah, that's fair.
But like I said, the Giants need help at corner, especially now that Baker is not playing in the NFL for the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. So I guess, it depends on what they give up, right? I guess that's always how it comes. If it's a 4th and a 7th or something, could be a good deal. But if they give up like a 1st or a 3rd or anything like remotely valuable, then, probably lost out on that trade.
Yeah. I don't see any way that the Patriots don't make out like bandits in this trade. Except for the fact that Bill has not been great at trading people.
What do you think they would get?
I don't know. 3rd rounder, 7th rounder. He's a good player, but you're not going to get anything crazy for him.
Well, yeah, but I think a third rounder is actually pretty good for the second string corner. Like, that's not bad.
Not bad. He'd probably end up being their number one.
Yeah, probably. But who knows? Maybe the Pats will need him after everyone opts out. Maybe Stephon Gilmore decides to opt out.
Didn't the deadline pass already for?
I don't think that matters. The deadline did pass, right? But all the players were like, we need more time. So who knows?
Yeah. Doesn't season starts in a month?
Yes, it does. Well, it's supposed to. We were supposed to have the Hall of Fame game, I think, today.
Oh, yeah, they got canceled.
Oh yeah.
I think it was
by a long shot.
Yeah, today's Thursday. That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It can't get canceled, man. It can't.
What, the NBA, the NFL as a whole?
It can't get canceled. It can't.
I mean, everyone seems to be opting out, man. There are good people that did, like Tre'Davious White ended up not opting out, which I'm surprised that happened because all these people on Twitter were roasting him. Like, you can't opt out. Like, I can't opt out of my 9-to-5 job. I'm like, well, he doesn't.
Stupid.
No, because if you did have the option, then you would.
Yeah.
If you had the option to still make millions, obviously you wouldn't get this year's salary, but if you can have millions of dollars and not work, why would you?
Right, exactly.
So
I totally would.
Yeah, why not? Enjoy a year without COVID risk. It seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Just like DJ Khaled and Justin Biebs.
Oh, God. Fine. Let's just move on. I'm not even going to acknowledge that.
Okay. But on to COVID. We got some updates when it comes to baseball. But first, just really quickly, we talk about sports betting a lot on this podcast. So if you think you know the game yourself and you want to make a bet of your own, we now have a new partner here at Straight Up Sports. It's called PointsBet, and there's no better place to enter a bet of your own than PointsBet. It's one of the most unique and innovative legal sports book in the U.S. thanks to its unique twist on sports betting called points betting. And what that is, it's high risk, a high reward form of betting where when you make a bet, you're either rewarded or docked by how right or wrong your wager was. So unlike fixed odds where each point, it doesn't really matter how above or below the spread you were. In points betting, each point of difference from the spread or total becomes a multiplier of your original stake. So you could win or lose more and more based on the outcome of your wager. So if you're right by a lot, you'll see your winnings start to skyrocket. So we love it. If you're ready to go bet yourself on PointsBet, you could do that by going to straightupsports.com/pointbet and register. And when you do that, you get 2 free risk-free bets worth up to $1,500. And again, that's straightupsports.com/pointsbet. And you get those 2 risk-free bets worth up to $1,500 as long as you are placed in New Jersey or Iowa. So off of betting, I mean, we have been betting on the MLB a lot. When it comes to the MLB, we're about 10 games in, and it has been beautiful and a shit show all at the same time. I don't know how else to put it, but I think the obvious thing here so far has been the COVID outbreaks. It was first the Marlins. The Marlins took a week off of baseball. Then it went to the Phillies because they were afraid that they got it from the Marlins. Phillies took 4 or 5 days off of baseball. Then it was the Cardinals, and which I don't know what the worst one is here because the Cardinals, they seem to be getting under control, but it's a real punch in the gut to a lot of the players in the league is that they went out to a casino in the middle of the season and got COVID. Yeah, man. It was Yadier Molina, Paul DeJong. All these guys went out to a casino. I don't know when or how, but they did.
That's on them. I mean, I don't know. Like, if you go to a casino, like, I know everyone, like, pointing the finger at the MLB, like, Rob Manfred and everybody didn't have a plan. They didn't have a good plan. If your player's going out like that, that's entirely on you, and you can't be mad at anybody but yourself.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you heard Rob Manfred's response to this, but it was criticized pretty heavily because he was pretty much saying, like, you guys need to get in line. Like, you guys can't be going out. Kind of like what you said, right? Like, this is on the players, but everyone was looking for, like, some sort of control, and he just blamed the players pretty much for this entire outbreak, which is true, but you're the commissioner.
Yeah.
You have to be a face.
When I saw that, I thought he was being absolutely ridiculous. Like, this is something, if you're the commissioner, if you don't say what you mean, You just give a blanket statement. You hide everything, just like every athlete is supposed to do. As the commissioner, you should do the exact same thing, and I didn't understand why he did that. But, like, I don't disagree. If you're being an asshole and going to a casino and then you bring it into the locker room, that's entirely on you.
Yeah, no kidding. Listen, I love the casino more than the next guy, right? Like, it's amazing. It's a ton of fun. But there's COVID.
Right.
Sorry to say, but we have coronavirus. It's still here. Whether you believe it or not, it's there. The Cardinals went out. They said kind of fuck it and threw caution to the wind. And now they have coronavirus in the locker room. And they are now the team that's postponed. So clap for baseball. Like, it looks like a complete shit show.
Yeah, complete shit show. But they're getting under control a little bit.
A little bit.
Miami's back.
Miami's back. They're 5-1, dude. They are hot.
They're hot. I'm betting on them tonight.
They're just like all of Florida with coronavirus right now. They are hot. They are a hot zone of their own. But yeah, man, 5-1 in their first 6 games. I will say I did not see that coming.
I for sure didn't see it coming. They have pitched 20 consecutive scoreless innings.
That's pretty not too shabby.
Granted, they're playing the Orioles, but still, like, it's still an impressive feat.
Well, their lineup has been really good too. Like, they have Jonathan VR, Jesus Aguilar, Brett Anderson. I mean, these aren't guys that are like world breakers, right? But they make a good lineup, and they've been one of the better offenses in baseball, which is probably the most surprising thing to me.
They're my biggest surprise of the season so far.
Has to be, right?
Yeah, like hands down. I guess. Because I don't think anything, aside from how bad the Red Sox are playing, nothing else is, like, shooting out at me. Like, I expected the Twins to be pretty good.
Pretty good, but 10-2 good?
10-2 good. No, but they did the same thing last year. So, like, when I saw it, I was like, all right, it makes a little bit of sense. The Cubs are in the same ballpark, 10-2, 10-3 or something.
Yeah, 10-3.
The Yankees are being the Yankees, which is very unfortunate, but, you know.
But, I mean, yeah, otherwise, biggest surprises, I agree with you. Marlins, man, for sure, 5-1 to start. Big surprise for me, too. This is painstaking for us. The Mets were supposed to be one of the best teams in the league, and they are 4-8, and they have been just disappointed, to say the least. The offense has not been there. They have blown several games that they should have won. One against the Braves, actually multiple against the Braves. Most of them were against the Braves, but one was a 1-run lead, one was a 2-run lead, one was a 5-run lead. I mean, it's just it's a nightmare.
I know baseball contracts are all guaranteed, but, like, I would just, like, not pay Edwin Diaz any more money.
Shoot him to the moon, man.
Like, I don't know how because he was unbelievable in Seattle, right?
Unbelievable. Like, he was the best closer in the league.
It doesn't make sense how he just comes to New York and forgets how to pitch. It doesn't make any sense at all. Nothing
has happened. It's not like the Coors Field effect where, like, the ball doesn't break as much or something. Like, This is the same thing. It's just playing under New York spotlights, and I don't know what happened, but the same thing happened with Francisco Rodriguez. I don't know if you remember him, but
K-Rod.
Yeah, K-Rod, 62 saves in the season, set a single-season record. Next season, signs with the Mets, and blew, like, every save chance that he got. It was bad.
I think if you go to the Mets and you use the New York spotlight excuse, you're on the Mets. You're not on the Yankees. Like, the spotlight's really not on you.
It really isn't.
Also, like, you can't, we can't even say we were in the World Series recently anymore.
It was 5 years ago.
That's a long time ago, and it's think about everything that's happened since then.
I mean,
might as well have been 2 decades ago.
Sure. But it was more recent than the Yankees, so there's that.
There is that.
And less recently than the Red Sox. Okay, so we don't have the Northeastern win there, but
no, for sure.
Yeah, just like you said, the Red Sox cold start too. 3-8 themselves.
They don't have any pitchers. Their best pitchers, Eovaldi. So, or Nathan Eovaldi. Yeah. So, I mean, and he's good, but everyone behind him. I mean, Eduardo Rodriguez not pitching, Chris Sale out. Like, it's horrible. And their rotation, their bullpen was a disaster last year. It's going to continue to be a disaster.
Yeah, and then when you lose Mookie Betts to put the cherry on top, it doesn't make it easy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not having fun this year.
But I will say, big surprise overall that we haven't mentioned for me is the NL West as a whole. Last year is one of the worst divisions. Like, you have the Dodgers running the show last year. Now there are 4 out of the 5 teams are primed to make the playoffs, and one of them, well, first of all, just what I said is disgusting.
Yeah.
4 out of 5 teams in the division making the playoffs in baseball is stupid.
Very stupid.
But as of the rules right now, they are, and one of them is one of them that's not is the Diamondbacks, and the Diamondbacks were really good last year. This year, the NL West is run by the Dodgers and the Padres, who have been one of the best teams in baseball. And then right behind you have the Rockies, who have been pitching dominant, which is shocking to say.
Yeah.
And the Giants, who they have one of the worst lineups in baseball, and they've been hitting the ball really well. So a lot of weird voodoo shit going on in the MLB right now, but NL West has been like taking that compliment and they've been riding high. It's really surprising to see.
This is a weird year. I don't like
kidding.
it. It's a really weird year. I don't like it at all.
It's shocking. But also, one fun thing, good guy, good dad, Mike Trout, has been on fire lately, man.
Yeah.
3 home runs in 2 games since his son was born.
It's the dad effect. Every time something happens super personal to an athlete, they just go on a tear.
No kidding.
Whether it's good and being a dad, getting married, something bad like a death in the family, they go on a tear. Like I remember a few years ago, we can even go back to in basketball, like Isaiah Thomas. But I remember a few years ago, you remember Torrey Smith, wide receiver on the
yeah.
His brother, I think, died in a car crash. He's decided to go on Monday Night Football and have like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I remember that.
Yeah. Like whenever something like this happens, like athletes just like somehow turn it on. I don't know why they can't do it all the time, but
yeah, sometimes you need the extra motivation. I don't know. But I will say the one thing that you have to always look out for is with college when the mascot dies. The mascot dies or goes missing, it's going to be a huge game. You got to hammer that team that lost the mascot.
I don't think I've ever heard of a real story like that, but I just remember from Blue Mountain State when they, they stole the goat.
Well, you want to hear a real story?
Yeah, sure.
Indiana doesn't have a mascot. It used to be a buffalo or a bison. No, it was a buffalo. Okay. I don't know why. Indiana's not a mountainous state, but they did. But what happened one year was, I forget the college that came to town, but we have this fountain called Showalter Fountain. And in it is like the goddess Venus surrounded by these fish. Again, don't understand the inspiration, but someone stole one of the fucking fish from the fountain. And it's a big fish, man. It's made of like metal and it's huge. It's huge. And they stole it and they can't find it still to this day. And that was like 60 years ago. So
yeah, that's just chilling in someone's house somewhere. And every time he looks at it, he just smiles.
Yeah. He looks up at his mantle. My friends may hate me, but I have the fish.
This is my shining achievement.
I am the captain now.
Did you make him Russian?
I just made him a villain.
Okay.
Because I don't know. Why not, huh?
Yeah.
But hammer the bet with the mascot. Hammer it with life events. And I especially hope you've been doing it with Mike Trout. Because, again, with the birth of his son, Bat, I don't even remember the kid's actual name, but his initials come out to Bat because Mike Trout is a baseball juice head.
I'm pretty sure I said that in my hit or miss, too. I was like, this man's hitting a home run today when he was entered back in the lineup.
Yeah.
I think I went a little crazy and said he might hit 2 or 3, but he did that the next game. So
yeah, he hit 2 the other day. So
yeah.
So Mike Trout's going crazy. I don't think we could really say that we didn't expect that, though, because he's the best player in baseball.
Yeah.
And then I guess right behind him this year, though, is unfortunately Aaron Judge. He has gone crazy. I think it was like 7 homers in the last like 7 games or something like that.
As it extended, last I heard, he hit a home run in 5 straight games.
I think it was like
I stopped hearing about it.
I think he hit another one against the Phillies.
Oh,
so it just keeps packing it on, man. It's tough to watch.
It's so good, it's infuriating.
I know. I thought of anyone to be Stanton doing that, but Judge has been going crazy.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me that Judge is doing it, but I'm still shocked that Stanton is just he's another guy. I guess you can say the New York thing, but when he was in Miami, like he was a different beast.
Yeah. I mean, he still clobbers balls, right? But he strikes out more than I've ever seen him do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely doesn't clobber him as regularly as he did, but yeah, when he misses too. It's funny.
Yeah, he'll strike out 4 times in the game, and it's like curveballs in the dirt. But Like we said, it's the New York effect, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't really understand it. I don't know how it's really that different, especially when you're on the road. You play 82 games on the road.
Right.
How is it that different?
Yeah. Also, like, I feel like the New York effect must die with newspapers going away. No? Because, like, people aren't really buying the New York Times anymore, I don't think, the New York Post. Like, sure, they're still there, but, like, you're not seeing yourself on the front page for being bad like you used to.
Well, now you see it on Twitter all the time.
Yeah, but you do that no matter where you are.
Okay, fair. But apparently, even like New York, I didn't know this. New York is not the most aggressive media city. It's apparently Boston is like the toughest sports market.
That's because all the Boston beat writers hate all the Boston teams. So.
It's just fuck you here.
I forget. I think whoever owns the Red Sox, I forget his name, owns the Boston Globe, and he basically tells them, bash the Patriots as much as you can.
Really?
He hates the Patriots because they stole the shine. Like, it was definitely a baseball city at one point, and then kind of became a football town.
That's hysterical. I had no idea about that.
He pretty much says, like, bash Belichick, bash Kraft as much as you can. Like,
I'll sign on to that petition to double it down.
Yeah.
Sign me up. But so that kind of goes into, we talked about marketability in sports. That leads to actually before we go to the bottom of the barrel, it would have been a good segue, but I want to touch on this really quickly. The Rock. We talked about football. Okay. Our guy, The Rock, bought the XFL.
Yeah.
$15 million deal, and he and his investment group, I think it's Cardinals Investor or something like that, now own the XFL. Third time being sold around, no longer in Vince's paws. What do you think?
Keeping it in the family.
I love it.
Vince is keeping it in the family. He's giving it to The Rock.
Yeah, it's so true.
At one point. So
I didn't even think about that.
Oh, it's the first thing I thought. Like, the first thing I thought was, oh, okay, he's just giving it to a wrestler. All right. But, I mean, let's be real. Like, there's no saving the XFL. This was their best chance. And now next year, or even 2 years from now, like, no one's going to give a shit about the XFL.
You don't think so?
I don't think. I know everyone loves The Rock. I get it, but I don't think he can even save this. I'm
pretty hopeful. I'm hopeful that the XFL can be saved because when we watched the games and when we went to the games, they were fun. Like,
yeah, it's God forbid it gets popular.
Why?
Because then we might not get tickets. Also, we don't have an in for tickets anymore. So
yeah, true. I mean, it's even if it gets popular, it can't be that bad, right? You're selling the lower bowl of MetLife Stadium.
Listen, as long as the crowd keeps the same energy, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, it was already crazy to me that when we went tailgating, they already had like fan groups, fan clubs.
Yeah.
Like, we've played one game of the season. You don't even know the quarterback's name. Biggest fan on earth.
We had somebody, I forget who it was. The Guardians had somebody who used to be in the NFL. I cannot tell you his name.
I know who you're talking about.
He was bad.
Yeah, he stunk. There are a lot of guys who defected from the NFL and stunk.
Yeah, the Ohio State guy was there. I forget his name.
JT Barrett.
JT Barrett.
Mm-hmm. He was pretty good.
He got benched.
Well, once a Buckeye, always a Buckeye. Am I right?
True.
But yeah, so it could be cool. I mean, I would like to see the XFL thrive, but now we have it in The Rock's hands. Only our Lord and Savior, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, can pull this one now. So,
not my Lord and Savior.
I know you hate him, and I don't understand.
I don't hate him. I dislike him as more than everybody else.
With a passion.
No, it's definitely not passionate towards Dwayne.
Good, because that'd be horrific.
Yeah.
So, moving to the bottom of the barrel now, marketability of sports. This also ties in. We don't have the XFL, but our bottom of the barrel this week is going to be the worst of the worst for each of the big three American sports. What makes them so unmarketable? Why is the MLB, for instance, so poorly marketed? Why is the NFL so poorly marketed, et cetera, et cetera? Why is the NBA so poorly marketed? So worst of the worst, one of them for each. So I've been taking the lead on Rumor Mill and Last Second Covers this week. So Sula, why don't you kick off with your worst marketability? Why don't we start with the NFL? Why not?
Oh, okay. We're going to do it that way? Okay. First of all, before we do that, I would like to say I like how we're just completely disrespecting hocky. I'm all for it.
I mean, come on. What am I going to say there? I don't even watch it to begin with. So
I know, but I think I'm all for it. But I just find it funny. So I think my biggest issue with football is just the amount of commercials and the amount of times the game stops. Like, because I think what is it? The average. I don't think this would change with this, but you already only have like 11 minutes of action in a football game. Mm-hmm. But just the fact that you have to keep stopping, like you need a commercial timeout under a certain amount of time in the quarter, I think is ridiculous. Like going to it for a timeout, I think is ridiculous. I get the 2-minute warning, but it's also a little like, do we really need it? Like, I get it too. Like, you make most of your money for advertising and everything, but it sometimes just makes the game truly unenjoyable when like you go to commercial, you come back 2 plays back in commercial. Like, what just happened? I don't even know what I'm watching anymore. Like, I think that's the worst thing that football does is the amount of commercials.
It's pretty brutal, man. It is really tough to watch with all the commercial breaks. Because like you said too, it's a long game, right? It's 11 minutes of action for 3 hours of a game.
Yeah.
So to have so many commercial breaks in between that, I completely agree with. It's tough. For me though, the toughest marketability aspect, it's kind of it's a beautiful is that all the games are on Sunday. Because I think it's amazing, right? Because football literally has its own day.
Yeah.
But at the same point, too, I can only keep up with like 1 or 2 games going on at a time.
Mm-hmm.
If you have red zone, it makes it a little better, right? Because you get the fast pace when teams are within the 20, but you don't get to sit down and watch a game and like enjoy everything about it.
Sure.
So when you have 10 games going at the same time, 8 or 10 games, I'm just at that point, I'm just watching the bottom and like, what's the score here? What's the score here? What's the score here? So you don't really get to watch the games like you will with like the NBA or the MLB, where you have there are a lot of games throughout the entire week and then all at the same time. So
you still get 3 days of football though.
Yeah, Monday night and Thursday night you could dedicate to. So I
Sunday night.
True, Sunday night.
Day game. You get 4 solid games if you dedicated yourself to it.
Yeah, but there are some really good games where I'm like, I do want to sit down and watch this, and you really can't.
Yeah.
And when you hit 4:00, I'm already checked out. I'm like, I
like how they call 4:00 game to America's game.
Yeah,
that's my nap game. Like I'll watch like I'll put Red Zone on. I'll have like another screen with an actual game on. Watch it, and then when the 4:00 game's on, take a nap.
Yeah, exactly, dude. You've had your wings, you had your dip, and now it's time to relax. And whatever happens in this game, fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But one thing,
Cowboys too, so I don't really give a shit.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that same aspect too, is when they started putting it in London as well, and you have games now like that started like 8 in the morning on Sunday. Like I'm not waking up to watch that. Like and they're usually the shittier games, right? It's the Jaguars versus someone usually.
Yeah.
But I would like the chance to get to watch it because I wake up and it's not even noon and a whole game has already passed. I'm like, what? I just entirely missed this.
Yeah. How am I losing in fantasy before 1 p.m.?
Exactly. That's the craziest part. I'm like, how did he get 20 points? Oh, he played at crack of dawn.
Right.
So that's mine for the NFL. Normally we snake draft it and go mine next to you, but because we're doing it broken down league by league, why don't I hand it off to you? I'll give you your pick. What do you want to do next, MLB or NBA?
Let's do NBA.
Okay.
Mine would be the fact that nobody tries for the most part. Like the regular season, like you can kind of tell everyone's kind of an autopilot. I was actually speaking with one of our friends yesterday because I was saying how I've tried. I've really tried. I've tried watching the WNBA. I cannot watch it. I can't. But she was saying how like, no, but like they all actually try on like both ends, this and that. And I was like, I get it. Not really. But like she was saying how like a turn off to the NBA is like they're all just like standing around half the time. Like they're all just looking at each other. They're all trying not to get hurt, which I guess could be a total turn off to like a majority of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably it's a lot like playoff hockey. Like not no one, I'm sure hockey fans do, but like we don't care about regular season hockey. And then once the playoffs comes, you're totally into it because it becomes more intense. But even in the playoffs, sometimes like you can see NBA players like you don't see LeBron trying to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah,
like, that can definitely be a turnoff for a lot of people.
I completely understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with it too. Because like, and especially gets bad with the All-Star game because I had a similar sentiment with it. It was like the All-Star game. it used to be awesome, like All-Star Weekend, and now it sucks because some of the format has changed. Some of the contests are still okay, but the All-Star game itself is like a 300 total point game, maybe 400 if it gets crazy.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's fun to see them goof around, but they, like you said, they really don't try until the postseason. And at that point, 81 games have already gone by. So I agree with that. It's tough to watch them play like lackadaisical defense and say, like this game was 113 to 109, and we just didn't really try.
Yeah. I personally don't care. I love the NBA. I'm just saying, definitely a turnoff for a lot of people.
That's kind of what I was going to say too, is I think the NBA of the three sports is the best marketed because I think they do a lot of really good work with highlights. And they make it really, like, the game already is very fast paced. And when an electric moment happens, I know you hate the term electric, but when it's a big moment, they're right on it and they always post it. And it's a highlight for a long time coming too. Yeah. So I think they're actually the best marketed sports of these three, the NBA being or the NFL being second. But if I had to pick and choose why the NBA isn't well marketed, I would say that, and this was more true even a couple of years ago versus now, but the lack of a lot of star power and success in the major markets. Because you look at New York, it's a dumpster fire. Yeah. You look at Chicago, a dumpster fire. True. And for the longest time too, the Lakers were shit. Mm-hmm. After Kobe left, after he retired, even when he was playing his last couple of years, they were really bad. They were not a good team. And people in the biggest markets in sports in those areas couldn't care less.
Right.
And I think it's still tough because even though you have LA as being an amazing duo of teams now, like you have the Lakers and the Clippers, and you have a major market there doing well, it's also the West Coast, and the West Coast bias is really real because people on the East Coast, where most of the viewership is, don't want to stay up at 10 o'clock to start watching a game and watch it through until 1 a.m. It's just not feasible for most people. So I think that would be my biggest lack of marketability not expertise. Like they can't really control so much unless they want to rig stuff again, like they do. But just having the biggest cities, especially on the East Coast, not have a lot of success, I think draws a lot of attention and viewership away from those major markets.
Yeah, I'd agree completely. Especially like for teams that once did have such prominence, like the Bulls, like the Knicks. Like, granted, I don't think the Knicks, they still sell out almost every game,
which is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers. It doesn't make any sense to me. I would have stopped going to games a long time, especially the ticket prices to go to MSG is absolutely absurd. Absurd.
And if you call it in NBA 2K, it's Knicks Arena, but absurd.
Really?
They are, yeah. Two guys on the right.
The MSG?
No, they don't. I think Dolan's just a Scrooge. Another case in point why Dolan sucks.
I can go to Madison Square Garden, the UFC game.
I know. They didn't want to give it to 2K.
That's absurdity.
Right. But, I mean, it is. It's the most expensive ticket price because the Knicks are still the most valuable franchise in all of the NBA, which is astonishing. But they finished, I think they were 16 and 60 or what was it, 16 and 66 last year? Like, horrible. Horrible. And they're charging ludicrous prices to go to games.
I mean, they can. That's the thing.
Yes, they can. Well,
Every time I want to go to a basketball game, I always look at the Knicks first, and then like, oh, guess I'm going to a Nets game. And then even that, Barclays is expensive.
Right, because now the Nets are good.
Right. When they were bad, it was still expensive because it was a brand new arena. And they were like, well, got to get Jay-Z his money back. So
very true. But I think part of it with MSG too is just the fact that you have a lot of tourists coming into New York, and they like, I think it's the same effect as like when we go overseas. Like a lot of people are like, oh, this is MSG is called like the Mecca of basketball. Like we have to go to a game. We have to go see the New York Knicks. It's like the same when I go to Spain. I'm like, I got to go see Barcelona, or I've got to go see, same effect.
Yeah. Quick side note. We don't have to stay on this. I think we should take the Mecca away from MSG.
Until they're good. I don't disagree with you.
Like it just hasn't been the Mecca for the longest time.
No, since the 90s.
Yeah. They don't even do boxing there anymore. They don't do UFC there really. Like, they don't do anything there.
Oh, they sell out Billy Joel all the time.
Oh, sick.
You don't think that's awesome?
I'm not a huge Billy Joel fan.
No, I'm not either. I'm actually right there with you.
One show a month. Fuck out of here. Really
Sells out every time, though.
Whatever.
But so we got the NBA and the NFL done. So why don't we move to you? Last sport on the slate, MLB. What do you think is the one makes it so poorly marketed?
My first thought was how just the pace of the game, but I just think it's exactly what the NBA is so good at. They have no idea how to market their players. They don't know how to make their players likable. And every time their players try to be likable, they are like, oh, you can't do that. That's disrespecting the integrity of baseball, the history of baseball, yada, 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 all this old dude shit that like no one cares about. Like Manny Ramirez tried, and he was pretty marketable because he just didn't give a fuck. Yasiel Puig was pretty big for a little bit. Juan Soto's trying now, but even now they're telling him not to grab his nuts. Like, let the guys be them. Like, let them have a personality. Like, it's kind of like, I'm going to actually relate this to wrestling real quick. Anytime in wrestling, like, because Vince McMahon makes every single decision, anytime a wrestler gets, like, the term over by themselves, like, it's popular with the crowd, if it wasn't his idea, he pretty much says, all right, you're not on TV anymore because people are starting to like you. We can't have that. It's like what baseball does. You start to get liked and it's like, stop doing what you're doing.
Okay, but good analogy. I respect that.
Yeah, it's like also basically what he says, like, it's not about you, it's about the company. Mm-hmm. So they're basically saying this is not about you, it's about the MLB and the sport of baseball. No one can be bigger than the sport of baseball, which I think is absurd. Yeah. It's like Kobe Bryant was obviously bigger than basketball for a long time. Michael Jordan was bigger than basketball for the longest time. And it's what helped grow the sport. Like, let these guys be them. It will help grow the sport. Younger kids will start to watch. Like, I don't know what's not getting through these guys' heads.
Yeah. No, I had the exact same one. So I'll go to my second, but to comment on yours, like, I agree entirely, right? Because they can't market their players. You have the best player in MLB history, arguably, in Mike Trout, and 3/4 of the all sports fandom probably can't even name him.
Yeah.
And it's for the reason that you said, that they don't want players to have a personality. Everyone has to be, you're cutting a mold and you're a professional now. Even when you go to the Yankees, you have to still cut your stupid beard. What for? Like,
the dumbest thing on the planet.
It really is. And I'm not even taking a shot at the Yankees. I mean, I guess I am in this sense, but like, there's no need for it. Like, you want personalities. You want people who, if you're not a big baseball fan, you're like a casual fan, to be like, oh my God, like, this is pretty cool. Like, let me get into it. You want storylines. There's none of that. Absolutely none of it.
A lot of the issue with baseball, though, is like their top guys really aren't the most interesting people either. Like, I think they tried with Mike Trout in an All-Star game. They were like, oh, Mike Trout really likes the weather. Sick, dude. Mookie Betts really good at bowling. Like, all right. Like, a little better than the weather, but okay.
Yeah, that's true.
So, like, they don't have the most interesting dudes because I don't think there's a whole lot of ego in baseball. Because, like, I actually couldn't tell you why, but I do think that, yeah, you have to focus a little more on the lesser guys because your bigger guys won't do it for you. Like, no one wants to hear Mike Trout talk about the weather.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I actually might disagree in that guys don't have egos. I think there are a lot of guys that don't, but you look back at the I don't think it's the World Series. Maybe it was the World Series where Yuli Gurriel was fined by the MLB because he was chirping Yu Darvish from the dugout about his race, which is obviously not okay. Obviously not okay. But Yuli Gurriel has balls for making a statement like that. Like, clearly, again, not okay, but he's got an ego.
Yeah, I think ego was the wrong word, and I had the word, and then I forgot it.
That's okay. I'll wrap it and just even say personality, because if you have a personality, you can't show it in the MLB.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
I don't think being racist is a personality, but I know.
No, well, it's a personality trait, and it's not a good one.
Not a good one.
No, but my other one, because I had a feeling you were going to go with the same one as me, player marketability. My other one is just the length of the season. Because it kind of goes into pace of play too. But I think if you didn't have 162 games over like 6 months, then a pace of play like you have in the MLB, it wouldn't be as much of a problem because it actually might be exciting, right? You go to a 0-0 ninth inning, a pitcher's duel, but you have like 30 games, 40 games. It's a meaningful game.
Yeah.
The game is on the line. Stakes are there. If you have 162 games, you could lose that game 9 times out of 10 and be like, fuck it, we have tomorrow.
like they do all the time.
Exactly. They stop caring. Like even the players are like, just get me out of this game.
Yeah.
I think 162 games is a grueling, stupidly long season.
Yeah.
I hope the shortened COVID season actually is like a benefactor to us in that it'll show the MLB you don't need 162 games. We'll see about that, but I really do think that when you have so many games, even just take this into account. The NBA has discussed shortening its season. The NBA, and they play half as many games. They play 82.
Mm-hmm.
And the MLB plays double, 162. And there has been no discussion to shorten the season. It's just way too long that even big fans like ourselves, 9/10 of the season, I can't get into because how do you expect me to have that long of an attention span? Honestly.
Yeah, May through August is like, come on, let's get to September already.
Right. All it is you check your phone for the scores every now and then you might go to a game every now and then. But
yeah, exactly. And then like you wait for July 4th so you can see the cool hats, but that's about it.
True. But there's just no anticipation or excitement for the games when that happens. So
no, not at all.
That would be mine. We are going to bring in some honorable mentions for these. Again, NFL, NBA, and MLB, why they're not so marketable. So, Matt, if you're ready in the background, we'll bring you on in. Matt, our producer, welcome onto the show again, man.
Oh.
I think Matt might be muted.
He's muted.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, there he is.
Good, my bad. All right, so for bottom of the barrel, I had, I had one for hockey, actually. I know we're not on that one.
Oh,
my thing is just
anything.
I can't find the puck. It's too small and it moves too fast around. And that's like every single time I try to watch it, it's flinging around and then they're like, he's offsides. I'm like, I don't even know where the puck is. That's just mine. Football for me is it's too many rules. Like if you're just a casual watcher of the game, there's stopping of like, you got pass interference, holding. You can put your hands here, but you can't put them like on this thing. Like, it's very hard for just a casual fan to just try to sit down and watch a game and understand what's going on, as opposed to like baseball is like very easy, basketball is super easy. I just think football there's a lot of rules that go into it.
That's a good point too. It goes into Sula's thing as well because when you stop the game so much for penalties, it makes it even more grueling.
Exactly. Yeah. So that would be mine for football. And the stoppage time, like I said, basketball. Mine for basketball was it just comes. I don't know about marketability factor. It's hard to get people pumped up for like a regular season game when they don't matter in the playoffs. And then most of the games end up anyway, either coming down to like 2 points at like the last 2 minutes, which is, fun to watch, or they're blown out by like 30, right? Like there was a few games like recently that were like in the bubble that were, 2 points away, 4 points away in the last few seconds. And those are like nail biters that everyone wants to watch. And there's other games where like the Golden State Warriors get blown out by like 45 and you're like, this is just like ridiculous and it's kind of silly. So that would be mine for basketball.
All right, nice. Did you have one at all for the MLB? Because that's the most grueling sport of all.
Yeah, I mean, mine. The big one for me is actually like they black out the games, right? So luckily, like I'm a Yankees fan, right? So all my games are on Yes. They're right there. I can watch them, or they're a big enough team. They're on ESPN or like Fox or something like that, right? But if I want to watch like the Minnesota Twins or whatever, I have to hope that maybe it's on like MLB Network, and if not, then like I'm just not watching them play. And you can't really watch it on like YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. Like a lot of those games you just can't find. So that would be mine. They just like don't do a good job of kind of the opposite of the NBA, doing their clips, getting on like Twitter and all that stuff. I just don't think they do a good enough job of that.
They were against that for a while too. I think they've been a little more lenient recently, but for the longest time, if you put a clip of a home run or a great defensive play, they would take it down immediately. Yeah.
The UFC, I know like this is way out there. The UFC does that with their fights. Like they don't let you show the knockout, which I think is like
that's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. So they'll show you like the after effect of them celebrating or like leading up to it, but they don't show you like the actual knockout, which is like obviously the only thing people want to see. So I think that just like back to baseball, if you just don't let people watch like your highlights, it just kills your product. So
yeah.
That goes back to why Adam Silver is the best commissioner in sports, because he said even himself, like, we can't stop people from making their own highlights and even like highlights YouTube channels and everything. So he's like, screw it. If you want to make highlights, make highlights.
Yeah.
I love the highlight YouTube channels. How like just I think for an hour, like the other night, I just like turned it on, muted it, and put music on. I had the best time of my life.
Oh yeah.
That is an interesting Friday night, Sula.
I didn't say it was Friday. I said
okay. Anything else? Any honorable mentions or any other notes before we wrap up?
No. Well, I'm all good.
no. It's like
All right, then that is official. Episode 19 of season 2 of Last Second Covers. Again, I've been Chaz here with Sula and Matt in the studio. Next week, we will have maybe football coming back to training camp. Who knows? Their whole schedule is a mess as well. But more MLB on the road. NBA bubble. We might be getting close to the playoff time. So there's going to be a lot to discuss in next week's episode. So be sure to tune in. Again, we'll be recording on Thursday, releasing next Friday. So guys, thank you again so much for listening to this week's episode. If you're able to check us out on the YouTube live stream, appreciate you. Love you. Thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to just subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on every live stream that we do on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. And again, if you listen on our podcasting platform on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, any major podcasting platform, you name it, we're there. All we ask is you drop a 5-star review on the podcasting platform of your choice and leave a review as to why you like the show and things that we did well so we know what to carry on going forward. So again, guys, lots to look forward to this coming week. A lot of sports, thank God. So we'll be back in the studio next week. But until then, guys, love you, stay safe, and we'll talk to you next week.
later.
Peace, guys.